We are getting a brand new race in Dragonfight, the Dractyr, and we know for a fact that Vrathian will be playing a significant role in the new expansion, as was confirmed by Blizzard in interviews. However, what will that role be? We know that the Black Dragon fight is all but non-existent at the moment, and Vrathian was always presented as a really significant character that never really amounted to that much, and he sees himself as the original Neltharion, meaning he wants to claim his legacy, and his legacy are the Dractyr. So is Dragonfight his spotlight, and could Vrathian be taking control over his father's ancient army, the Dractyr on the Dragon Isles, in the upcoming conflict in the new expansion? All of you that played WoW during Mists of Pandaria definitely remember Vrathian. I mean, he played roles in pretty much all the expansions since then, thus far, but back in Mists of Pandaria, that was really his spotlight, and when all of us believed he would become a really significant character in the future. He apparently had these big visions for what is to come, yet it never really amounted to all that much or to anything really significant. Yeah, I mean, he did fight the old gods in BFA, but back then we were talking about some crazy conflict for the survival of the universe, which might finally, after a decade, be happening in Dragonflight. We thought he knew something none of us knew, and that he's the only person that could lead us to victory, and that he could only save Azeroth. So who exactly even is Vrathian, and what is going on with him? People always call him the son of Deathwing, he calls himself the son of Deathwing, but technically all the black dragons are the children of Deathwing, so he isn't exactly his heir, but dragons don't really work the way humanoids work. It isn't exactly hereditary in the traditional sense, the way you would think of it. Why Vrathian is really important is that we first believed he was the only uncorrupted black dragon, the only surviving one, and then we learned about a few more, but still he is one of the few remaining black dragons out there. However, Vrathian was actually formed quite recently and is one of the youngest dragons out there, so it's not like he avoided corruption throughout the past 10,000, 20,000 years due to his mental fortitude and him hiding, but more like he was a part of an experiment that ended up in his egg being purified, so really he was sort of an anomaly. Back then he self-proclaimed himself as the last black dragon, and he personally identified as his father, well, not really his father, but more like his father's original role. Long ago, before the old god corruption and before he turned into Deathwing, the world destroyer, Neltharion, the Earth Warder, was the leader of the Black Dragon fight, and the Black Dragon fight was not evil at the time. Now, this dragon fight was entrusted directly by the Titans to protect and defend Azeroth. Well, now Vrathian himself intends to become the new Neltharion, or at least that is what he has been wishing for years now. It is really his ultimate mission. His main goal was to fight that which corrupted his father, and he was quite successful, as in we managed to defeat N'Zoth at his invasion, and then Vrathian vowed that whatever remains of the Black Dragon fight will stand in defense of Azeroth alongside a champion, so essentially he will fulfill the original role of his father. Well, looks like now is going to be the time, as we are going into the center of Dragon Civilization, the Dragon Isles, and Blizzard officially confirmed that he will be playing a pretty big role. They literally talked about him in one of the interviews. They said something along the lines of us expecting that Vrathian will be doing his own thing, you know, sort of working for the greater good, but also being shady at the same time. So he might be our direct ally, but he could also be working against our interests to ultimately help us, if that makes any sense. However, what could he really be doing on the Dragon Isles? What will be this role that they have been talking about? In my opinion, I think a large part of his story will tie into that of the Dractyr, a newly made race that will actually be playable. While new, they actually have quite a bit of potential, and it was confirmed by Blizzard that the Dractyr were created prior to his corruption, back when he was Neltharion, the Earth Warder, and not Deathwing. They are a Draconid race that seem to have been pretty important, as Neltharion literally crafted an entire zone off the coast of the Dragon Isles in order to just train them. Now, you may be thinking, why would he need this massive army? As Blizzard told us, in order to battle the Primalists, aka the followers of Galakrond, the biggest threat to Azeroth at the time, and also a threat that we will soon discover. Neltharion combined the magnificence and intelligence of dragons with the scrappiness of mortals, making this new dragon-like race that resembled humanoids. The isle itself has been dormant until recently for over 10,000 years, and now the return of an ancient enemy caused chosen to awake yet again and to join the Alliance and the Horde. We still don't know, of course, how this will play out, but we know that the Draktyl will play a significant part of the new expansion, and that Vrathian is set to also play a really important role, so we can kinda connect the two. Since Neltharion, their leader, is gone, it really seems natural like the person that claims to be the new Neltharion may seek to rule over them or to take direct control. After all, Vrathian sees himself as the original Neltharion, the uncorrupted version, and the Draktyl were his personal army that served the will of the Titans through their leader. While this may be his own ego, honestly, it really just seems realistic. The thing is, the Black Dragon fight is in complete shambles. You can literally count the survivors, the uncorrupted ones, on one hand. Now, while we might discover new members of the uncorrupted Black Dragon fight, because after all, we are going into their ancient homeland, let's think about it realistically. What are the Draktyr if not the Black Dragon fight? It seriously seems like this broken down dragon fight will be getting a huge amount of reinforcements, like an entire army joining them, which might just completely revive the Black Dragon fight and put them back on the board again. I'd say the Draktyr are more like the Draconids, but still, even the Draconids are a part of the other orders, so technically they are the dragon fight, even though they are not dragons themselves. As the Draconids serve dragons, it seriously seems natural that this army will become subordinated to a dragon, more importantly, a direct descendant of their own leader. Now, while a lot of people have been speculating who could lead the Black Dragon fight in the Draktyr, let's be real, there really doesn't seem to be any sort of a significant choice. Until recently, we thought Vrathian was the only remaining Black Dragon. Then we discovered Ebonhorn, and there have been a few more whose status is either unknown or they're like half corrupted. So really, the most realistic choice would be Vrathian. The only question is, would they really accept him as their leader? Because these Draktyr are elite soldiers, thousands of years old, and Vrathian is literally just a whelp in terms of dragon years. Blizzard even sort of kinda hinted at this in one of the interviews. Steve the User said that Vrathian feels like the entire burden of reclaiming the Black Dragon fight is on him, and he fancies himself as someone who could take the reins of leadership and guide them and even resurrect the dragon fight. However, that point of view is not exactly shared by other dragons, and they will question the methods he has used over the years and what his origins will mean for him as a dragon, but apparently Vrathian has a great journey ahead of him. Now, whether these other dragons Steve just mentioned are the other aspects or maybe other uncorrupted black dragons that you might discover in the Dragon Isles is unclear. However, it makes sense. It would be hard for giants like Alexstrasza and Ozdormu that are thousands of years old, nearly as old as Azeroth itself, to really accept a whelpling as an equal to them. However, on the other hand, we can look at it from a more realistic side, as really there doesn't seem to be another worthy descendant, so either Vrathian can rule the Draktyr and revive the Black Dragon fight, or the Dragon fight can really just disappear. There really don't seem to be any other significant options. Now, that is, of course, unless we discover something crazy on the Dragon Isles, as we will be going into the heart of their civilization. However, the Draktyr are becoming playable, and they will definitely need leadership. While Vrathian is young, he is a really established character in the Warcraft lore. It would really make sense that he would become the racial leader despite not being one of them. It would make more sense really than some just randomly introduced new Draktyr commander. So honestly, my speculation is that they may not accept him at first, but ultimately Vrathian will become their ruler. We know that both the Alliance and the Horde are getting an update to their leadership, and we will be learning more about it, and there will be some groundbreaking changes, so Vrathian may end up playing a role in this entire endeavor as well. Thank you for watching. Check out the leaked allied races for Dragonfight as a pre-order bonus by clicking on the screen, and check out Honors Academy for videos on real-world history. See you next time.